Hi folks, this is Sarah Marshall, your operations architect, and this is episode 11 of our leadership series. In episodes 11 and 12, we are going to look at leadership models. We have been looking at how we manage ourselves, lead ourselves, how we lead others, and in these two dispatches, we are going to talk about the circumstances in which we might lead and the various models we can use to operate in those circumstances. So applying our leadership not generically as we have discussed so far, but specific to the circumstance that we are in. So this is leadership applied. There's a number of models out there that have been developed over the past 100+ years, and we're going to do a quick review of them. Each one of these could be a whole course in itself, but today we're just looking at the highlights. And then once we're done with the leadership models, the final two dispatches in the series besides the capstone will be on using culture as a heavy lifting tool for leadership. So let's jump into it. These leadership models are operating towards desired outcomes. They engage the people, and what kinds of people we're engaging and how we're engaging them is germane to these models. Additionally, we'll talk about control structures and evolving situations and how those leadership models operate in those efforts. There are a ton of leadership models out there. I have picked the 9 most popular, and we're going to look at those first. Those models have 4 vectors of index, and let's talk about those. Those are outcome orientation, people orientation, controls orientation, and context orientation. And let's define those vectors before we jump into the model. Outcome is focused on the outcome. What are we trying to accomplish? What commitments do we have? What milestones? What goals? And how do we need to focus on those to deliver what we need to deliver? The second vector is people. How do we focus on people? What are their needs? What are their desires? How do we address those and ensure that people are satisfied? The third is controls. What controls do we need to structure into our operating environment? What processes, what guardrails, what operating rules? Are we requiring a heavy controls orientation, or is there rewards and penalties, or are we light on controls and let people do things how they want to do them? And the last is context. What's going on around us in the environment, in the ecosystem, in our market? What directional shifts are we making, and how does the model support that context and dealing with those external signals in a fluid way? The first one we're going to look at, and all the ones we're going to look at in episode 11 are indexed, focused on the people orientation. And you can see that I put a little graph down here on where we're heavily indexing. This particular one is indexed heavily on people, somewhat on outcomes, very low on controls and context. So it's a high inspiration, assumed authority model, and I'll tell you what I mean by assumed authority. This was originated by Max Weber back in 1922, about 100 years ago. And a charismatic leader is somebody whose personal charm, persuasion, appeal to inspire and motivate followers has a strong aspect to their ability to lead. They have a vision, and they are drawing people towards that vision. And these are often applied to political movements, religious organizations, and even startups where you need a strong, inspiring vision to pull people along. These folks that have been inspirational leaders in the past include certainly people like MLK, Gandhi, but it also includes people like Hitler and Mussolini. They were very charismatic, whether we thought their needs and desires were positive or negative. They still had a charisma that drew people along. The pros of this kind of leadership is that it can inspire and motivate teams to address extraordinary results. It can build a strong emotional connection with followers and rally them to support crisis or changes. Often Often a charismatic leader says, things aren't good now, we need to take you to a better place, and people rally around the change that they think that leader is taking them to. The cons can include an over-reliance on that leader. If that leader exits and goes away, what happens to the cause? Because they're really rallying around that person mostly and less around the cause. Can also, with a single leader without a lot of input, can lead to pursuing unrealistic visions or horrible visions, but it's the leader's vision. So when I say assumed authority, that leader is assuming authority over folks, and people are giving it to them, giving it to that person, and following them no matter what. You can read more about charismatic leadership and the dynamics of charismatic leadership, a process theory, simulation models, and tests by Jacobson and House, and you can click on this link to find it. Democratic leadership, this is also called participative leadership, and it indexes heavily on communications between participants, participation of all involved, at least through voting, etc. High trust both in the leadership process and the folks that are participating with you. It can be highly innovative because it fields a lot of voices and it forces collaboration to work together. So you come up with a solution that works for most people. Again, highly indexed on people, not so much on outcome and controls because it's really focused on the process of decision making with a large group of people. Certainly context can affect it. So this is a high inspiration shared authority model. Again, this one was originated by Kurt Lewin in 1939, and Democratic leaders encouraged the team members to share ideas, have an equal say, and ensure that all decisions are made with participation involved. Certainly applied to politics, creative industries where you're trying to come up with the best idea, research and development, on where to approach a problem, what kinds of outcomes you're looking for, and organizations that value collaboration and innovation. All good places for participative leadership. The pros are encourages the whole team to collaborate, the whole team to be involved and be active and be thinking about where we want to go. It can lead to very creative and innovative solutions. However, and increasing morale because we all own it. However, it can also be time consuming to reach decisions. It may lead to conflicts of opinion, or I wouldn't say may, it will, and there's going to be significant differences and you have to wade through those. And it's not effective in a crisis situation. You wouldn't want to use participative leadership to decide how you're going to attack a fire. So you can read more about that in key characteristics of democratic leadership in the NSCS blog. Click here for that one. That one's high inspiration and shared authority. Servant leadership is the third model that we're going to look at, developed by Greenleaf in 1970, and it focuses on the growth and well-being of the people and communities within the model. So it's a leader who really serves the team, serves the community in their needs and development. And you can see highly indexed on people, low indexed on anything else, because it's really focused on the people in the model. It's great for nonprofits, for education, organizations that emphasize social responsibility and community, because it engenders community involvement and leads for community interests. Pros are it can foster a strong sense of belonging, of community, of loyalty. It will encourage development of the people within the model and lead to high levels of team engagement. But on the downside, it can be less effective in competitive and high pressure environments where you need to get to a decision, go after specific outcomes. Decision making can be delayed as you go through a long process of consensus building, and it risks leader burnout because that leader is serving a lot of voices. You can read more about that in Servant Leadership Theory on the Harvard Law School Daily blog. This one's a high inspiration, low authority model. And the last of the people-oriented leadership models is Laissez-faire. That was developed by Lewin in 1939, and it's a hands-off leadership approach in which the leader provides minimal guidance and direction, maybe gives you a frame within which to work, and you paint the picture yourself. It's suitable for really highly skilled people and experienced teams that know what they're doing, know what they're going after, particularly good for research, creative industries, or technology, because you're working as highly capable individuals in a team to get things done. The pros are that it encourages autonomy and self-management and can lead to high levels of innovation and creativity with strong independent work habits, because everybody's autonomous in this model. However, it can result in lack of direction. If you have 100 people working in 100 different directions, you're not going to have a specific and well-developed outcome, which leads to lower productivity because they're all working in different directions. And it's not effective when strong leadership and oversight is needed. You can read more about that in What is Laissez-faire Leadership in the NSCS blog. This one's a high inspiration, low authority model. So these are the people-oriented models that focus on the people vector of those 4 vectors we discussed. We're halfway through our discussion on leadership models. We've talked about charismatic leadership, democratic leadership, servant leadership, and laissez-faire leadership. These are the people-focused models, indexed most highly on people. For each of these models, we considered outcomes, people, controls, and context, again focused on people. In addition, we assessed how they indexed between inspiration and authority. And we are going to review the rest of the models in the next dispatch. To read more about leadership, you can look at my blog at www.operations-architect.com. Thank you so much. We'll get to the next one in our next episode. And of course, as always, your feedback is quite welcome. Thank you.